Hello, people. Listen, I want to do a little update. Another podcaster, and I'm not going to mention the podcaster. You guys can figure out who it is because people are super sensitive and they don't like their names mentioned. So here's what it comes down to. This podcaster made a statement today. I don't know what this podcaster is thinking, why this podcaster is trying to open up wounds here. Because if you're associated with someone that put John Gotti away, the last thing you should be doing to provoke trouble is to speak on John Gotti. And here's the fact. This podcaster said that John Gotti was not really a tough guy. Wow. I mean, what else can you say to that? John Gotti, whether people like him or not, whether you feel like that he was too flamboyant and he hurt the Gambino fan, a lot of people feel that way, including me. I believe that he injured the family because he was so flamboyant. And when you're mocking the government's going to come after you. You know, it's like back when Hoover was president, he was at a Chicago White Sox game, and he got booed walking in, and then Al Capone came in and was cheered. And he wanted to know who it was that they were cheering. The president did, Hoover. And they said, it's Al Capone. And Hoover personally made it his mission to destroy Al Capone. And eventually they brought Al Capone down on federal charges of income tax evasion because they didn't have a damn thing on him. But by the time he went to jail, it destroyed him because he had full-blown syphilis. And by the time he got out, he was no longer Al Capone. But that's one. But like when you mess with the government, and that's what John Gotti did, he messed with the government. But for someone to say that he was not tough because he may not. First of all, how do we know John Gotti didn't kill anybody? I mean, was someone keeping tabs on him? Did you ever think that maybe he was a smart gangster and never talked about who he killed? You know, people just don't know. He could have very easily killed somebody, and I'm sure he did. You know, then Bratney, when he killed him, he wound up going to jail for a few years. Not a long time, but it was more of a, he had a great lawyer. But the fact of the matter is he did go to jail. People say, oh, he didn't pull the trigger. He was with the murderer. So he was one of the murderers. And you can't take that away. And very famous picture of McBratney. It's on, I got it on my YouTube thumbnail here of him laying dead, pretty much on the floor of the bar. But there's also other things that I like to say about John Gotti, whether he was a tough guy. There was evidence, and it came from Henry Hill, and Henry Hill was known for exaggerating things. But he did make a statement, and other people did agree with the statement, and then it was full of crap. But you know what? I'm still going to read to you what he said about John Gotti killing Tommy DeSimone. So let me find that. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to find that. Okay, but basically what he said is he said that John Gotti, he watched Goodfellas when Joe Pesci, who played Tommy DeSimone, he walked into, he thought he was being made. And when he walked in, there was somebody waiting there. People probably remember this scene. They came up behind him and they put a bullet in the back of his head. And that's what happened to Tommy DeSimone. But a lot of people are now saying it was John Gotti there, John Gotti who pulled the trigger and walked out. after he shot him. Then you had people coming up. Ed Scarpel came out with an article saying that he didn't believe that was true. Then you have people saying it is true. So nobody knows. There's no about whether he did it or not. But see, this is where the fanboys of John Gotti have to make a decision. A person that you guys represent and you talk highly about, what do you guys think? I want to know whether you guys think John Gotti was a tough guy. And here's the biggest thing. Okay, this podcaster said that Gas Pipe, Anthony Casso, was a tougher guy than John Gotti. They said that the Chin was a tougher guy than Gotti. And I have an issue with that. Guy, sure, okay. So the Chin was a tough guy, but the fact of the matter is, he walked around in a robe for years so he could stay away from being prosecuted as a gangster, willing to give up his image as a gangster so he wouldn't be arrested. Eventually, he was arrested, and eventually he went to prison. So that only worked for so long. But he took away from the fact that who he was, just so he wouldn't be prosecuted. And let's remember that too. Now you got Anthony Casso that was compared to him. And this podcaster also compared Joe Messino to him, saying that Messino was tougher than Gotti. And then, okay, so Gravano's tougher than Gotti, Messino's tougher than Gotti, according to Nestor, and so is Gas Pipe. What do those three guys have in common that John Gotti doesn't have in common? They all snitched to stay out of prison. John Gotti took his sentence like a man and spent the rest of his life in prison and then died. So I'd like to ask this podcaster and other people, if these guys were so tough, how come when they were facing all these years in prison, they ratted? How come John Gotti didn't? Joe Messino was a head of a family. And look, he's out of prison now. But the fact of the matter is, he was a very high-level guy ahead of a family like Gotti was. So do you think if Gotti ratted, that possibly he could have avoided charges and maybe spent 5-10 years in jail or in prison? But he never said a word. You know, to be ahead of one of these families, to know that every day you're going to get up and someone could be waiting out behind the bushes when you walk outside and get gunned down. And this podcaster wants to know why Casso went and killed Willie Boy Johnson or had him killed. Because the boss of the family doesn't go out to kill people. They order the murders. That's what they do. If anybody thinks that John Gotti wasn't tough, I mean, or as tough as these guys, if not tougher, these guys were under him. I mean, do you understand that? And, you know, first thing people will say is, oh, Lee did videos where he went after John Gotti. Yeah, I did. But I never questioned John Gotti's toughness. John Gotti did what most of us wouldn't even think about doing. He went to prison and took his time. Then you bring up Anthony, a psychopath, basically a serial killer. So he goes into prison and he decides he's going to become a rat. And then he fucks up the whole thing because he continues talking after he makes a deal with the government and saying things that he shouldn't be saying. And he's talking about he did not even share with the government when he confessed. So the government said, well, too bad, Anthony, you're staying in jail for life because you lied to us. Only reason that he did not rat. And then you got, let's say, the Chin. Just like I said, the Chin walked around in a robe and acted like a nut just so he could avoid being considered a head of a family. So he's probably the only one in history of the mob that did that. And he was nuts, so he wouldn't be prosecuted. So that tells me that he's not as brave as people think he is. He's trying to avoid being prosecution, and he's willing to give up his manhood, and he's willing to he is and pretend he's a nut. It worked a little bit, but eventually he got nabbed, and he wound up going down anyway. So he took all his pride away and everything to pretend he was nuts. And then as for Tommy DeSimone, he was a killer. He was a madman. And Hill came out, and as people know, he was in the movie Goodfellas, which was based on some stuff he wrote. A lot of stuff he wrote wasn't true. I mean, the guy had about that. And whether he's BSing about Gotti, nobody knows. He's dead, so there's nobody that knows. But the fact of the matter is this. He said that Gotti was in the room when he walked in. He walked up behind him, told him to sit down, asked him how he was doing, told him to sit down. As soon as he sat down, he walked up behind Tommy DeSimone and put a bullet in the back of his head. Then walked out. He strutted right out and left. No one knows whether that story is true, but that story's out there. And for the fans, that's what we are. We're like mob fans here. For us to say Gotti never killed nobody is ridiculous. We have no right to say that because we don't know. The fact of the matter is he made decisions to kill people. He made a decision to kill the Godfather. Do you think that was easy for him to take Castellano out like that? And even Sammy Gravano says they were there at the scene. They watched the whole thing. It's not like he was running and hiding and he was over in Howard Beach not dealing with it. And then when he found out that Sammy was going to rat on him, he didn't run to the government and say, wait a minute, let me out, give you some information. Can you imagine the information on the unions and stuff and the people that John Gotti could have put away if he decided to turn evidence? But he never did. Just insulting when people that are rats, are known rats, insult how tough John Gotti was. It's easy to insult people when they're dead. And you have to remember that Henry Hill said that he never came out and said, and this makes sense when you think about it, never talked about Gotti in 1986 when they were doing Goodfellas and the book called Wise Guys, I believe it was. But when they were doing that book, he said he never mentioned it because John Gotti was still active. When Goodfellas was made, the mob was still very powerful and very active. And so he felt like it was a risk of his life if he came out and said that it was Gotti that took out Tommy DeSimone. But we'll never know whether it's true. But if said John Gotti never killed nobody, that he just became the boss of the family, and he never went out there and did some type of work to get where he is, they know nothing about the mafia. Because if someone's going to become powerful like that, I mean, you're talking about Neil Delacroce was his boss. Neil Delacroce was a madman murderer. Do you think Neil Delacroce would have gotten John Gotti if John Gotti didn't do some kind of workout in the street? That John Gotti didn't take somebody out somewhere along the line? Sammy Guevara walks around and says, I only shot one person. So it's okay for him to say he only shot one person, but John Gotti, who we know was his murder, he was there in the pub. He may not pull the trigger, but he was still there. And that's what they went in for. So I think that people have to watch what they're saying when they make statements that are ridiculous. And the statement that John Gotti was not a tough guy is a ridiculous statement. An absolutely ridiculous statement. People can get mad at me for what I'm saying and stuff, but these are my opinions. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that agree with me. You know, when you're a head of the family, you know that you have somebody always looking to kill you on a continuous basis. John Gotti had attempts on his life where he just avoided them barely. When they blew up the car, he just avoided that. He could have very easily been there. He didn't say, wait a minute, don't kill, I'll retire or I'll leave. No, he didn't. And then people will say, well, you know, when his friends were killed, he didn't fight back. How do we know what's going on behind the scenes? Nobody knows that. He had just taken out Castellano, and he's going to start going out there and murdering these people? When Bobby Borriello was murdered, nobody knows what the story is behind that, except they know that gas pipe was involved. Nobody knows whether they made an attempt on gas pipe and didn't get at him. You don't think Gas Pipe's a smart man and protected himself after that? Of course he was. He was a psycho also. And the main reason I'm just doing this video and I'm going to drop is because I was watching these shows, and then someone just came out and was questioning John Gotti's toughness. And the person questioning John Gotti's toughness questioned his own toughness. Because when the time came, he ratted. And John Gotti did not. So I don't understand why people's out there playing these games right now. These statements and stuff. It's like, this is something you shouldn't have even touched, because you knew it was going to cause conflict. There's no doubt it's going to cause conflict. And now you've put pressure on people that have John Gotti posters behind them. What are they going to do? Are they such fanboys of yours that they're going to forget that you said John Gotti's not a tough guy? John Gotti was a very tough man. John Gotti was a lot tougher than Anthony Casso. And he was a lot tougher than Joe Messino. When it came time for them to do big time, they folded like an accordion. A matter of fact, Joe Messino got out. He's out right now. Casso died in jail if he wasn't so stupid and opened up his mouth and talked about some stupid shit. And I also wanted to talk to you about one more thing. You know, my sister and her brother-in-law are traveling all over the country now, and they're here to visit me for the next 10 days. And they've been here. And we went to this, I'm not sure if people heard about this steakhouse right here. Okay, this is the Big Texan. It's a very famous steakhouse. But here's the thing I love about it. They have a 72-ounce steak. And if you sit down, and you have a certain amount of time to eat it, you got to eat a baked potato, drink a little I think it's like a 20-ounce soda and a salad on the side, along with the 72-inch steak, 72-ounce steak. You get that all for free. And it's a thing that's very famous here in Texas. And this steakhouse, the big steakhouse, is a very famous place. And I took them there, and we had a great time. And they're going to be here for another week, and they're going to be here for Thanksgiving. And it just feels really good because I haven't seen my sister Joan in 20 years. And I spent a couple of days with her so far, and it was just like we just picked up where we left off. Nothing's missing there. And it just feels really nice to see her. And the sad part is going to be when it's time for her to leave. But I wanted to just put this video out there and just mention that, and you guys decide what you think's a good thing for someone to say, that John Gotti was not a tough guy like Gas Pipe was, and guys like that, the guys that ratted. I just think Gas Pipe and Messino are poor Gotti too. Now, if you want to compare him to Tommy Crotty, Crotty, and let's see who else, guys that didn't rat, Anthony Sparrow. If you want to compare him to those guys, okay. But you can't compare him to Gas Pipe and Messino, who turned out to be government witnesses and rats, which John Gotti was not. That's the show, people. I'm going to drop this video. I hope you enjoy it. Everybody take care. Please like my video. Subscribe to my channel. I get happy every time I look. My channel's growing now. I picked up like another 12 since yesterday, another 12 subs, and we're just slowly going up. Got past 2,500. We're on our way to 2,600. And like I said, I really do appreciate it. So if you watch this and if you haven't subbed yet, please sub. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow's Saturday. I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow. I haven't done a live in a while, so I'm definitely looking forward to doing a live tomorrow. I'm not sure. I got to have an idea of who I'm going to have on as a guest, a couple guests. Okay, but everybody take care, and thank you for watching this video.